Good evening. Welcome to all. This Poquoson City Council meeting is called to order. Got another good crowd tonight. We're very thankful to see everybody here. Look forward to demonstrating our listening skills in just a little while. We work on those very hard, and we also put a lot of effort into creating a welcoming, cordial, positive, and pleasant environment so people feel welcome and feel comfortable coming to speak. So thank y'all for being here. And just a friendly reminder, and have to remind myself as well, in order to take full advantage of the benefits of our audio system, we need to please make certain we speak directly into it. So that being said, thank you in advance. Also like to welcome Mr. Bill Bray with us tonight. He's an attorney that's sitting in for our city attorney, Mr. Wayne Moore. So, Mr. Bray, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Moving on to item B on the agenda, invocation and pledge of allegiance, which will be led tonight by Councilman Kerry Freeman.
Pray with me. Dear Lord, we're thankful we live in a city where we can have free and elected government. We ask that you guide us and direct us. Help us work together with respect and understanding, striving for the common good of our city. We ask that you bless our military, especially those deployed, and our first responders who serve our city. In your name, amen.
The flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item C on our agenda tonight are special presentations. We have two of them. The first is related to the Colonial Behavioral Health Board. I'd like to recognize two citizens that represent and serve the city on that board, Dr. Dawn Ide and Mr. Gerald Patzel, who's just been recently appointed, so we do appreciate their service. I'd like to welcome Mr. David Coe back with us tonight. Mr. Coe is the Executive Director of the Colonial Behavioral Health Board. So, Mr. Coe, thank you for being with us. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Hucks, Mr. Wheeler, members of council. It has been 7.5 years since we've been here to present. It seems like yesterday and forever ago all at the same time. For about half of you then, you'll be seeing me for the first time, and I apologize that this is the best that you get up right up front. But we are honored and pleased to be able to present to you tonight. And I know you have a copy of our slides, so for sake of time, we're just going to move right into it. You have a lot going on tonight. Colonial Behavioral Health is one of 40 community services boards in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Back in the late 60s, the General Assembly, by mandate, created that all local governments would either form a community services board or join with other localities in supporting one. Poquoson joined with James City County, York County, and the city of Williamsburg to form Colonial Behavioral Health. So we were actually formed in '71, so we are in our 55th year of existence, which is quite long. We are one of your regional statutory entities. Like you have many that you share with other localities right now. We happen to be one of those. But we're a little different also in that we are also a unincorporated 501c3. The way Virginia has set up the Community Services Board, or what we call the CSB system, you sort of walk around with you almost have like three feet. Two of them are in the public world and one of them is in the private sector. Sort of dance a little bit in both of those. But the majority of the rules we follow, of course, are public rules. We'll let you know that our fiscal agent is York County. They have been our fiscal agent for longer than I can remember. I've been with Colonial now almost 22 years. And York County was the fiscal agent long before that. As Mayor Hux has already shared, our two board members that represent the city of Poquoson, and I would say Dr. Ide Abley, Mr. Patesel, I've known him for a few years, and he will be very able as well. So this is going to be an average over the last 5 years. We have averaged about 135 individuals from Poquoson per year that we served. That was peaking at about 147, and then it dropped into the 120s during COVID. Everything we did, the numbers diminished during COVID. And just in FY25 have we gotten back up to the 147, 148 number. So the average across that period of time has been 135 individuals from the city of Poquoson. You'll find that a little over 1/5 of those are children and adolescents. The majority, about 2/3, are adults and seniors, making up about 12% of that. You'll also see the office that primarily serves residents of Poquoson is located on George Washington Highway in the Harwood Way area across from the earthen dam there at the reservoir. Our York Poquoson office, it's been built since the early 90s. So hopefully you'll recognize that. The services we provide, it's a long list. I will go through them very quickly, not describing too many of them, because I want to leave time at the end if you have questions or want to ask some follow-up along those lines. Our emergency services, our crisis services, which now include, in the last couple of years, now include mobile crisis services, which means that you don't necessarily have to go to the emergency room. We can get a call, we can be dispatched, and head out to an individual's home, to a school, to a business, wherever it might be, to intervene with a crisis before it gets to the point where somebody might need to be hospitalized. Our outpatient services, counseling, individual group, for all ages. Psychiatry, permanent supportive housing is funding that we've received from the state that primarily serves individuals with serious mental illness. The state is putting some priorities around those for individuals coming out of jails or state hospitals, but not exclusively to that. We also work with the continuity of care group, so we have a number of community individuals placed as well. Case management services, helping wrap around individuals with the needs they may have. Intensive outpatient services is primarily a substance use service, but it deals with individuals with mental illness as well. We would sort of term that as, in years gone by, you used to either go to the doctor or you went to the hospital. And then this urgent care was created years ago. We consider this to be in the same continuum, sort of the urgent care model for behavioral health services, where you can actually get an intensive level of care and then go home and be at home with your family at night. We are one of the more active community services boards in the state around veterans and active duty military. We were the first CSB in the state to create a military liaison to work with our military bases and our veterans groups. And then our prevention services as well. I want to highlight some of those. You may have seen the red signs on the front of your Food Lion cart. Colonial Behavioral Health, we have 60 of those. That contract has been extended. This was the first year that we actually have set up a booth at the Poquoson Seafood Festival. That experience was so good for us, it will not be the last time that we're there. And then National Drug Take-Back Days. The local coalition, the Historic Triangle Drug Prevention Coalition, distributed many bags that include a long list of items that are there to help folks with disposal return of medications or information explaining how to be safe using medications or avoiding dangerous materials. If you've been to Anna's Pizza in the months of May and September, you have probably seen those boxes. I've seen some heads nodding, so some of you have been to Anna's Pizza quite a bit. Over 6,000 people have eaten those pizzas during those months in the last few years. And we believe that is a great way to advertise 988. And then the athletic banner there at Field D1 here in the city. And then we have a number of services that are provided to Poquoson residents but are not located in Poquoson themselves because they tend to be more facility-based. We do operate 2 residential group homes for adults with developmental disabilities. They are both located in Upper York County, but those services are available to Poquoson residents. We operate a DD, or a developmental disability day support program up on Merrimack Trail in Williamsburg. We provide transportation to families and individuals who need that transportation. And that transportation ranges from Poquoson to Toano. We have routes that we head that far in every direction. Psychosocial rehabilitation is a day support type of program for adults with serious mental illness. And then our Part C early intervention services. I know you're all familiar with Child Development Resources, or CDR. We contract with CDR, so the Part C work on the early intervention work, they provide, we are their pass-through for those services as well. And of course, they are very active in Poquoson. Some of the service trends that we have seen is that, as I mentioned before, numbers decreased across the board during COVID. People stayed home. There was an increase in telehealth services that came about at that time. Some of that has gone back in the opposite direction, but not entirely, and probably never will. But what we are finding is the individuals who are coming in our doors now have more complex and acute needs than they ever have before. Cases are more complicated. When we're dealing with substances, the substances are much more dangerous. Because of COVID, a lot of times mental health conditions may have been let to go further than they might have before. So we get individuals that are more complicated on average than before. Therefore, we have, as our field has done, increased our focus on trauma-based care. We find that a lot of the issues that folks wrestle with today are because of traumas they have experienced in their lives. As children, observing others within their families, within their community. It comes from all directions these days. And therefore, we have also, as you've seen, we have increased our focus on our prevention efforts. Some things we're currently engaged with. Marcus Alert, I'm sure you've all been briefed on Marcus Alert, and while Poquoson is not a mandated locality, we're very happy that Poquoson has been engaged with the other localities that we work with in supporting their planning, participating, learning what lessons can be learned from that, but yet remaining true to the fact that you all have not chosen to engage with that, although you could always do it at any time should you choose to. We are also, among all 40 of us in community services boards in Virginia, are actively pursuing a process called becoming a CCBHC, a Certified Community Behavioral Health Clinic. It is a federal designation that resembles, very similarly, if you understand federally qualified health centers, FQHCs. A CCBHC is a photo negative of an FQHC. Now, I'm starting the acronym letter salad here. A CCBHC is mandated to provide a broad array of behavioral health services and a little bit of primary care. An FQHC is mandated to provide a lot of primary care and a little bit of behavioral health. So you put those two photo negatives together, you've got a full picture. We are working at that right now, hoping to maybe have Virginia start down the road of turning all 40 of us into CCBHCs over the next several years, which could be transformative in terms of funding. And when that occurs, it improves workforce retention, recruitment, outcomes nationally based. That leads us to some of those challenges that we're dealing with. No one that comes up to present to you will say that their workforce issues are just hunky-dory, because they're not. They have improved somewhat for us in the last year or so, and therefore, that's one of the reasons that some of our numbers are starting to go back up, because we had so many vacancies, it was difficult to serve people there for a while. I also don't have to describe to the city of Poquoson about federal funding uncertainties. Every locality knows that, but I know in particular you do. State funding, in some cases, is almost as uncertain as federal funding. It's hard to find a place to look these days where you can be completely sure of anything in terms of funding. For our developmental disability population that we serve, it is almost entirely funded by Medicaid. And the rates there have improved, but they've got a long way to go. And then accessing state hospital beds. If the chief was here, he would tell you how many times if they have to access a state hospital bed, Eastern State Hospital has not admitted anybody locally in months. You need a state hospital bed in this part of the state these days. You're going to drive to Marion, you're going to drive to Northern Virginia, you're going to drive to Staunton, you're going to drive any number of places, but Eastern State is pretty much just full, and it's full of folks in the forensic population. That's a challenge for this area. And then Virginia's redesigning its Medicaid behavioral health services. I'll run through these parts pretty quickly. We are in the process right now, we are constructing a new crisis services center. It's going to be called the Center for Support and Wellness. You'll see an artist rendering there. The structural steel is up. We're starting to put the cover, the metal cover over it right now. We are planning to be open in September, October of this year. It is fully funded by the state. Governor Youngkin put the money forward for us through the Right Help Right Now initiative. So that is going forward. We will be the only such center that will have 12 recliners that will be able to provide up to 23 hours of care, 8 beds for residential care for those in crisis, anywhere from 2 to 10 days, and then our CIT assessment center, which will be able to accept custody on a short-term basis from law enforcement while evaluations are being done. A total of 24 beds or chairs. You will all be invited to the ribbon cutting. We expect this should hopefully cut down on those number of trips that people are making to Marion and Staunton and places like that as well. We are also planning, years ago, Colonial was in the supported employment business to help individuals with disabilities get jobs, get trained in the job skills, and keep those jobs. We got out of that years ago. We are looking to get back into that soon. The psychosocial rehab today model for adults with serious mental illness, I mentioned before, we are reworking that model to sort of modernize that model. We are working on a partnership, engaged with a partnership with a federally qualified health center right now to provide integrated primary care, behavioral health, and dental services under one front, with one front door. That is a future arrangement for us. And of course, I've already mentioned Marcus Alert. There's a lot more that we do. So while we're proud of what we do, we would also welcome any of you who would like to come and tour any one or all of our facilities. Feel free to give me a call, send me an email. On the next slide there, you'll find our website and my email. I'd be happy to take you on a tour anytime. We'll be taking Mr. Paetzel on one here very shortly. So if you'd like to come along. Thank you very much for your support, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I have a couple.
Yes, sir.
On your, I think it's the 34th view graph, you have services provided,
Yes.
and there's a whole bunch of acronyms there that I do not recognize.
Okay.
Can you tell me what they are, please?
Okay. This is on the one that has MH and SUD and all of those things.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Okay.
I apologize for that. My board even tells me to sometimes quit speaking in letters and alphabet soup and actually use the words. MH is mental health. SUD, substance use disorder. And then you have ID/DD on that page. You might be able to go back. That's your slide, I imagine.
Yes,
That's the one that's
that's
got most of the alphabet soup on it. IDDD stands for intellectual disabilities/developmental disabilities. Just the same group. And then we have the MHSUD again. I skip forward. I think most of those are identified.
That was my.
That was the one.
main concern. And one other question is, you talk about a drug take-back program.
Yes.
Are they identified when that's going to happen? Because I'm certain many people in the city have medicines left in their medicine cabinet that they haven't used all of, or they wound up never taking for some reason or another. I'm one of those people, and I'd like to know how to get rid of them.
Okay. Those usually occur a couple of different times a year. They tend to be advertised with your law enforcement. I don't have the dates in the top of my head. I apologize for that. We can get back to you. We can send that information to Mr. Wheeler and Mr. Hucks.
I think that ought to be published for the city, you know. I think a lot of people would like to take advantage of that. Thank you.
Great, I would agree, and I have some medications at my house I'd probably like to get rid of as well. I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have. Yes, sir.
On that regard, I was going to say, with a spouse that's a pharmacist, is don't throw them down the toilet, don't throw them in the garbage, take them to some place they can just get rid of them safely.
Yes. The information bags that we mentioned that we hand out in there do have disposal bags where you can actually put in there, and you can actually put them in the trash that way, but there are approved methods for doing that.
Any other questions from council members?
I had a quick question, and it's
ma'am.
just from ignorance.
Jeannie?
When you were talking about East Carolina, you mentioned that people who were there long-term, and it's been a long time, you said they were there for forensic reasons. Now, I understand forensic medicine from Quincy, right? You guys remember Quincy? And forensic speaking with public speaking. How is forensic used in this case?
Forensic in this case is used, we have two populations that end up general, broad populations that go to state hospitals. One is civil, which are those that have no criminal involvement, no criminal justice involvement whatsoever. The forensic population tends to be individuals who may be transferred from jails. They may have court orders in other ways to send them there that are not the civil, like civil commitment sort of thing. Or it could be someone who has been through the court system and they are declared not guilty by reason of insanity, or the NGRI, to throw out the alphabet soup again. So those tend to be the groups that make up the forensic population.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Sure.
I do, excuse me, I do have one. The Marcus Alert thing, I had to look it up. I had no idea what it was. And I think that's a bad thing, because if I'm the one that's trying to report someone that is in need of that service, it basically pushes me, but I need to know it pushes law enforcement, who understands that more. But without knowing what it is, I'm going to them not knowing what I'm asking for.
Right.
So is there more of a way to announce that? I mean, it took a long time for the Amber Alert to get out there, and there's several other ones out there, and this is a new one to me.
Well, the Marcus Alert actually it's not really a program, it's a set of protocols. And it is designed to categorize levels of threat and different types of response that could be made when law enforcement engages with somebody who has mental illness or substance use or whatever. It's based upon a case from Marcus David Peters that happened in this part of the state. It's named after an individual. It actually categorizes times when a response should automatically be law enforcement, dangerousness, whatever the issue might be. Or it could be that in a certain case, it may be just that mental health needs to respond. Maybe in this case, law enforcement doesn't need to respond. But there's a lot of cost associated with that. There's a lot of nuance with that, with 911, 988, dispatches, and so on. So it's pretty complicated. And for smaller localities, it can be quite challenging to implement. Therefore, the General Assembly first said every locality has to do this. And then the next year, they backed off and said localities with populations under 40,000 should have the option of doing so, with the goal that they would eventually like to have everybody get there, but I don't think we're ever going to get to that point. Poquoson is one of the localities, there are many in Virginia, that said, based on our size and resources and all that, it just doesn't work for us. But the Chief has been very engaged in learning what he can about what happens in other localities. So hopefully looking to glean the learning of that without having to necessarily take on the administrative burden and cost of it. So I think it's pretty wise on your all's part. Thank you.
Other questions from council members? Mr. Coe, thank you again for being with us. Your presentation is informative as well as interesting.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Much appreciated, sir. Thank you. So with that, we'll move on to our next presentation. I'd like to welcome Mr. Kyle Laux. Kyle is our financial advisor from Davenport and Company, and he's going to present to us tonight related to our strategic borrowing approach. So Kyle, appreciate you being with us, and the floor is yours, my friend.
Yes, indeed, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, nice to see you, Mr. Manager, and folks in the audience and at home as well. Again, always appreciate being here in Poquoson. We've had the good fortune to do that for a long time. That's something we and my colleagues value a lot. To my left, Austin Sachs, one of my colleagues. He'll talk here a little bit at the end. We'll kind of get things rolling, try to move through the evening here, but certainly as you, Mayor, members of council, have questions, by all means, feel free to jump in. So to Mayor's point there, what we really have tonight is what we've called the 2026 School Financing and Strategic Borrowing Approach. So typically this time of year, as you're moving into your budget planning cycle for the next fiscal year, which will start July 1st, we tend to come, which again, we appreciate doing, give a little bit of an overview in history and also a plan to move forward with any capital projects that you as a city have identified. And so we've got one of those. But we also have an opportunity, we think, in the current market to save some money by refinancing. So we'll talk about that. Just a little bit of background there. Again, in terms of our capacity as your advisor, it's not our job necessarily to say which projects are good or bad projects. That's for you as a mayor and a council with your staff to tell us. And you've come to us with one of those projects. And so that's really the nexus of why we're here this evening. But as you look at that second bullet point, the other thing we tend to do a lot is watch your outstanding debt portfolio and say, okay, as interest rates go up, they go down, they've been going down the last year, are there opportunities to refinance for savings purposes? And so last year, we borrowed about $3 million for some school projects, and as we've been watching that over the course of last year, we think that loan we could actually refinance for savings purposes, meaning take the rate we got last year, make it a lower rate, and hopefully save money in the process. And so Austin's going to talk some more about that. But we really have two purposes there insofar as we've got a new project and then also hopefully refinancing for savings purposes. Before we do that, we're going to just a little bit of history in terms of where you've been in a city the last 5 or so years. Again, we just think that's a good sort of perspective for the mayor, council, obviously you know that, but the citizens as well. And then we'll get into some of the details on, again, this financing plan going forward. We always like to point out on page number 3 here, the city's credit ratings. So you have 2 very hard-earned and excellent credit ratings especially for a city of your size. You see those on page number 3. The first is from Moody's Investors Service. We just shortened that to Moody's. You have a AA2 credit rating. It's in that green box up there. When you as a city started down the path of needing and having credit ratings, you were in the high A range. It's that kind of yellow dot there in the middle of the page. And so what you've been able to do primarily in the last 10 or 12 years is really get those credit ratings up. What that does is when you need to go borrow money, like you've identified right now, helps you do so at the lowest possible interest rate. So it's a real money saver to you as a city and to the taxpayers to have these credit ratings as strong as possible. So you see that AA2, which is in the very strong category from Moody's. On the right-hand side, we saved the best for last year, is the AAA credit rating from S&P, or Standard & Poor's. We just shorten it to S&P. That is the highest possible credit rating that any local government can have. And for you as a city, your relative size, which is relatively smaller, to have such a credit rating that, again, is as strong as you can possibly have, is really, really spectacular. That, again, provides you one of the best ways possible to go finance or refinance for savings purposes your projects when you as a city identify them. And so kudos to you. On mayor and council, the dais are obviously with Mr. Wheeler and Tanya running the day-to-day of things to have achieved such heights in terms of credit ratings. On page number 4, we just give a little bit of a, we'll kind of call this our pizza chart here, or pie, or whatever your mode is, in terms of what actually goes into those credit ratings. Again, as we're in that budget planning cycle, we like to kind of maybe refresh this a little bit. Make sure you as a council and the public really understand what goes in to coming up with those credit ratings. And it really can be boiled down to 4 basic slices there. You see that up on the screen. The top left is the economic base. And so that's something that on a day-to-day basis, you don't have a lot of control over as the mayor and council. Certainly long-term economic development, you can help that. But day-to-day, you're really benefited by what is viewed as a very solid, very stable, positive local economy. And so that's kind of where that credit rating starts, and that's a good positive. That accounts for about 30% of the credit rating. You take your eye to the top right-hand little quadrant there, and that gets to things that are within your direct control. And so the first of those you see is financial performance and flexibility. That counts for about 30–40% of the credit rating, and that's the things that really flow through the manager, flow through the finance department in terms of, do you have annual surpluses? Do you have fund balance that is in compliance with your policies? Have you been adding to that fund balance? Those are those types of things that count in that financial performance and flexibility portion of the credit rating. The next is, if you go to bottom right, the management concept there. And this is probably the hardest one to quantify, but with Mr. Wheeler at the helm, obviously with Tanya as well and the rest of the team, you score very, very highly on the management side of the equation. What they're looking for are things like, do you have structurally balanced budgets? Are you following your financial policies? Are you doing good long-range planning? Which is things that the city has done for many, many years. And so you get very high marks there in terms of management. And the last quadrant there is the debt side of the equation. And so that's part of why we're here tonight, talk about borrowing some money for some new improvements into city infrastructure, but it really only is a portion of how those rating agencies are coming up with your ultimate credit rating. They're looking at that debt, not so much in terms of the sheer numbers, but how does that compare to your policies? How does that compare to your neighbors and peers, knowing that you, Poquoson, are unique, but can be compared to other cities and counties across the state and across the region. You compare well. So with that, in terms of the credit ratings, we'll talk just a little bit of history here. I think it's helpful maybe to set the stage that way. What this page is showing is your last 5 years of audited financials right out of the general fund in your audit. I will say kudos to your finance staff. Your audits are on time annually. They are unqualified opinions insofar as they're clean opinions. That is becoming more and more challenging in the world of local government, so we do not take that for granted, and you shouldn't either. So you're in very, very good shape there just in terms of the actual tracking and production of those audits. Very important. What you see over that last 5 years is basically annual surpluses each and every year. So starting in 2021, ending most recently June 30 of 2025, you as the city have produced a surplus each and every year. What you note there is you get to 2025, that surplus is a little bit smaller. And so what we're also seeing in the world of local governments is we're in fiscal year 26, really planning for 27. Some of the things are tightening in terms of we've had the impact of inflation over several years. Revenue growth still seems to be positive, but not quite as positive as it was a couple years ago. And so we're really seeing that insofar as managing through this year and really planning for the FY27. We think it's going to be more challenging for many local governments, including yourself. You're obviously in very, very good shape heading into that, but we do see that broadly both within the region and the state. On page number 7, just 1 or 2 more pages here in terms of the overview, but this is a very important one. This is the unassigned fund balance. And so if there's one financial measurement or metric as you're looking at your finances, you're thinking about the finances of the city, that you would want to go look at to understand what is your relative strength, what is your flexibility in terms of your financial situation, it's this unassigned fund balance. What you see is your policy is basically to be at or above that yellow line right there. And so you see that over that historical period. We want the green bars to be above the yellow line. The other nice positive you've had given the last 5 years is those green bars have actually been increasing. This graph is showing things relative to the size of the budget. So it's not necessarily the sheer dollars, but how do those dollars compare to the size of the revenue base in the city, which has been growing. And so this is arguably the strongest financial position you've been in from a fund balance standpoint, at least in our memory and history. And so that, again, should be noted, given your track record here of management, conservative budgeting, excellent management of the finances. To be in this situation sets you up well to be thinking about and dealing with what we expect will be a challenging budget situation going forward. One more slide here, and I'll hand it over to Austin as we think about, again, the concept of borrowing dollars for new projects. We always make the important caveat here that when the city or any local government is borrowing dollars, it's to make an investment in capital infrastructure. So you are not really allowed to be borrowing for things like operations or salaries. It's much different than the federal government. What you're borrowing for is more analogous to a mortgage. Maybe if you've either purchased a home or made improvements to your home, that maybe is the best corollary to personal finance. That really is the way the city operates. And so the borrowing that we're talking about is to put a new roof on the high school, roughly about $3 million, $2.6 million in that range. And so as we're thinking about the borrowing of that, what you see is our existing debt service on that right-hand graph. You just look at that visually. 2026, 2027, we're about level here, 27 and 28, and you've got a very nice decline that comes up in 2029. So we have a couple years before we get there, but part of the borrowing plan we're going to talk about is to try and accelerate some of that decline and bridge that gap between fiscal 27 that you're planning for right now, fiscal 28 that'll be the year after, and a very nice decline coming in fiscal 2029. So there is clearly some daylight and a very good plan, solid plan to move forward with the projects that you've identified. So with that, I'll hand the baton over to Austin here to walk you through the plan.
Thank you, Kyle, and good evening, Mayor, members of council. In terms of the plan of finance, as Kyle made reference to, in terms of the new money component, what we're looking at is approximately $2.6 million in terms of replacement of the Poquoson High School roof. And that second bullet point, you'll see what we call a dual track approach. I'll go into more detail in a couple of slides, but what that's really looking at is competitively solicited direct bank loans, which the city has had much success in recent years. And it's also looking at the Virginia Public School Authority pooled financing program. That's a long-standing, well-run state program for school projects, and it gives the city access to the public credit markets cost-effectively for financing of this size. Towards the middle and lower bullet points there, as Kyle made reference, we're looking at potentially refinancing an existing loan. As part of being the city's financial advisor, will look at opportunities to refinance for savings, and like Kyle said, going from a higher interest rate to a lower interest rate and trying to achieve debt service savings, particularly looking at FY27 and 2028 in advance of the existing debt service decline. The last point that I'll make on this slide is that we aren't extending the maturity of that existing loan. We look at refinancing, so similar to a mortgage refinancing, just going from a higher to a lower payment, but not extending the term of that loan. On this slide, just looking at the two scenarios, a key point at the top of the page, both of these scenarios fit within the adopted city debt management policies. So in terms of debt service to expenditures, debt to assessed value, both of these scenarios fit within those policies. Scenario one, we've labeled as the 2026 bond. That just includes the new money. This is taken into account via your budget process. So in terms of the payments, this has already been planned for to take those payments on. And so in terms of structure, as we approach that debt service decline, trying to structure that new issuance to limit the payments in the first 2 years, and then layer on the full principal and interest over the remaining term of the loan, which we're planning for 20 years for this particular long-lived asset of a project. In the blue box, we're looking at scenario two, and what this is a current market estimate, so our sense of what the public credit markets or a competitively bid direct bank loan might look for the refinancing of the 2025 bond. And so using the same structure as scenario one and current market interest rates, and I'll show you on the next couple of pages, but what that may translate and may look like in terms of new debt service payments and what those savings may look like. So visually on scenario one here, this is giving you a sense of the impact to the existing debt profile. So in the dark green bars, it's existing payments that are known today, and then in the light green bar, that's what the 2026 new issuance would look like, or may look like, with just the new money component, the $2.6 million for the new high school roof. What you'll see there is that there is an increase from FY26 to 2027, roughly $285,000 for 2 years before that nice decline in debt service beginning in FY 2029. When we look at scenario two in terms of the potential refinancing on this page, what we've shown in the orange line there is the projected debt service associated with scenario one, and going from a higher rate to a lower rate, we're able to potentially achieve debt service savings in those first 2 years. In terms of this page, approximately $135,000 for 2 years. And so decreasing that hill, so to speak, that the city has to climb in terms of debt service payments. If you prefer to look at the numbers, I know there's a lot on this page, but to summarize it, in terms of the first scenario where the increase is roughly $285,000 for 2 years, the refinancing may decrease that increase, or basically potentially cut it in half. So if we have to increase the debt service budget from 26 to FY27 by round up $300,000, potentially decreasing that required increase to potentially $150,000. In terms of the dual track approach, like I said at the start, looking at competitively bid direct bank loans, as well as we've shortened the Virginia Public School Authority to VPSA pooled financing program. What this lets us do is go out and receive competitive bids from potential lenders, get those in hand, and come back to you all with those interest rates that could be locked in at that time, and also compare that to what the current market may be for the VPSA pooled financing program. And so at that point, we don't have those bids. Today, Kyle will talk in more detail in terms of the schedule, but give to you all our recommendation on which appears to be the more attractive financing option at that time. Importantly, on the VPSA pool, in terms of an application, there's no cost to apply. It's not binding, and it's no commitment in any way. It really just initiates the process there and lets us compare where that pooled program stands in comparison to the direct bank loan proposals that we will receive. And then on slide 16 here, just to give a sense of interest rates, on this page, it's called the 20 bond index. We'll look at this index to give us a sense or a general bellwether of where tax-exempt interest rates are trending. This particular graph goes back to 1980, roughly the last 45 years, and you can see a steady decrease in rates. And so outside of the COVID all-time pandemic lows in terms of tax-exempt interest rates, we still continue to be in a very favorable long-term borrowing environment. And then with that, I'll hand it back over to Kyle to talk through the proposed time schedule.
So, Mr. Mayor, members of council, I'll pause there, see if there's any questions, thoughts, comments, and certainly walk over next steps. I'll just pause there. There's a lot of information quickly.
Yeah, just a couple.
Sure.
Just looking at the data, it looks like, based on the current data that we have here, the scenario 2 would save about $300,000 over the 2-year period.
That's right.
Okay, and,
That's right.
but you ought to do the comparison with the school program versus the current rates to see which one in the end will actually do the best. Is that
That's
correct?
exactly right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, so all we're really doing, Mr. Southall, is today, we're obviously presenting this and getting your blessing to move forward, but we're going to go through that whole bidding process like we've done in the past to go out and get the bids from the banks. We'll come back to you basically in March. I'll talk about the schedule here. And we'll have results from the banks. We'll be able to compare those head-to-head to what that VPSA pool program looks like, and then make a decision at that point once we have that information in hand. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
I want to make certain I understood.
Sir. But with that, we'll just kind of talk through time schedule. It's probably a good segue in terms of where we go from here. On the left-hand side, we've laid out what we call the bank loan schedule. On the right-hand side is the pool schedule for VPSA. We are agnostic as to which one of these ends up being the selected provider, so we're going to work through the whole competitive process. But basically, we're just here this evening to get that process going. So you're not committing yourself to anything. There's no cost, there's no obligation to move forward until we bring the information back. The one logistical step we need to apply to this VPSA pool program, which again is a school-specific state funding program for schools, the school board will have to take an action that gets next week to authorize that application. That doesn't mean that we are definitively moving forward with anything. It's just a procedural step to authorize the application to go in. That what really happens during the month of February, we'll go through this bidding process, we'll go through this application process, and we'll plan to be back to you as a council on the 9th of March with the results of those bank bids. We'll need to hold a public hearing. That's just the way the process works under either scenario, whether it's a bank loan or VPSA. And we'll have those results for you and a recommendation in terms of which of those options looks better. In our opinion, obviously that decision will be up to you as a mayor and council. And so really over the balance of February, we'll be going through that process, be back to you in March, and you can make a decision at that point. And plan to be in a bank loan scenario, will basically be done by the end of March. Under a VPSA scenario, it takes them a little bit longer to gear up their pool, and so they'll be locking in their interest rates in April and basically done by around May 1st. So between either beginning of April, maybe 1st of May, the whole process should be done, the dollars will be in hand, and you can move forward with the project at that point. Sir?
I'm assuming any cost involved with the refinancing is built into the numbers you have here?
That's correct, yep. So anytime we talk about that, it's always net of any costs that would be applicable.
Council members, any other questions or comments for Kyle? Kyle, would like to comment a little bit about the AAA bond rating that we are so thankful to have, and Davenport Company played a huge role in that achievement. And just to share with the public how that benefits each of us as taxpayers, the last 2 times that we've had to finance projects within the city, we had no less than 6 lending institutions competing for our business. Pretty good, and as a result of that, we were able to get a much better interest rate than we would be able to get that AAA bond rating.
That's right.
And in, I know the last 2 instances, we've actually gotten a rate less than what we had planned for.
That's
Very
exactly
helpful.
right. It really, it's a money saver to the taxpayers.
Thank you for your contributions to that. And Kyle, Austin, appreciate y'all being with us tonight. And they come down from Richmond, so we certainly appreciate all your time and effort.
Happy to do it. Really, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, that brings to a conclusion our 2 presentations, and we'll move into item D, which is the audience for visitors. And at this time, we will open the floor for public comment related to the city. We have 4 speaker cards, and I'll call on those people and ask them, please come to the podium. And afterwards, anybody else that might like to speak will certainly be welcome to speak as well. First card we got was Miss Leslie Neal. Miss Neal lives at 7 Oakmore Drive, just for the record. Welcome, Miss Neal. Appreciate you being with us.
Thank you very much. I will be succinct. We had an opportunity to speak with Mayor Lux this afternoon. This is regarding the Big Woods North development, and he was explaining that the process of studying this was in January 2025. We were aware through his conversation that there was also an off-site opportunity conference to also discuss the Big Woods North. Personally, as neighbors, we were not aware of this until September of 2025. So what I'm getting to is we're not just dropping in, we've been trying to follow as best we could, starting in September of 2025. And I was kind of hoping that Mr. Quinn would go first because he explains it much better than I. But what I would ask is, after you listen to his more detailed presentation and his proposals and his suggestions, is that we ask as neighbors, and we are here in force because our street is being proposed as an access road. So first, we ask if you could please delay the vote on, I believe it's the language that they wanted to use, and specifically, we'd like you to reword it so that we don't have Oakmore, that we consider other proposals that Mr. Quinn is offering. He is coming forward, offering alternatives. We're not just asking to stop cold, we're just saying, please consider the questions that he is proposing. And that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Neal. Appreciate you being with us. And I'm taking these cards in the order that I got them. Next on the list is Mr. Randy Neal, 7 Oakmore. Mr. Neal, welcome back. Appreciate you being with us.
Esteemed council, thank you. I guess I have 3 things. First one is thank you. Today, I made phone calls to all of you. And in any big city, you wouldn't get a response. Before I even hung up, or after I hung up, Mayor Hux was on the phone. 20 minutes or a half hour of conversation and genuine dialogue. Mr. Freeman called, incredible, thank you, sir. And Bud called, thank you, Mr. Southall.
Thank you for Bud.
Janine would have, but she was at the
I was
bank.
working.
Which also highlights what Mayor Hux told me about all of you. It's volunteer positions. I guess you're compensated $100. I understand. So you're
Or
up there-
taxes.
You're up there representing us, and it's a job. It's a full-time job, and you only have a little time to devote to it. That leads me to my second point. Last Friday, the agenda was published, and the agenda does have you voting on the strategic plan, which mentions Oakmore specifically as an access road to Northwoods. We did respond with an email that afternoon, but my understanding is, how could anybody, you have families, so I'm sure you didn't have time to look at the questions, and we're voting on it. So my request is, please, let's just delay the vote for 2 weeks. That gives you time to look at the questions, answer them, and see if there's a compromise that can be made. My third point is, why does Oakmore have to be specifically mentioned in a strategic document? I'm former military, I'm very aware of strategic documents. The more generic they are, the more options future council members will have. If this truly is a strategic document and it's 5 years or 10 years in advance, you don't want to narrow it down to one road. You want to just use a generic access road. We don't even know what the traffic patterns will be by then. But what we are guaranteed is that they will be more voluminous. And right now, we don't have the capability to handle that. So the more generic the document can be, the more options everybody will have in the future. So thank you for what you do. Please delay the vote for 2 weeks. Please consider removing Oakmore as a specific access road. That doesn't say eliminate it, it just says remove it from the document. Thank you.
Mr. Neal, thank you for being with us, sharing your thoughts. That's much appreciated.
Thank you.
Call Mr. Harold Quinn. Mr. Quinn, welcome back. And for all those who might not know, Mr. Harold Quinn served on City Council for 12 years back in the 80s and 90s. He's a former vice mayor and also served the city on the Wetlands Board. And I remember specifically when I was a senior in high school taking government class, Mr. Quinn was an answer on a test because we had to identify all of the council members.
He couldn't spell Littleton, that was his problem.
So glad to have you back, Mr. Quinn.
Thank you for listening to me once again. I hope you've had a chance to read the email that I sent you. I found out after, on the conversation with the mayor on Saturday afternoon, that usually when emails go to the council like that, it's handled by the mayor for the response. And there was some concern on the timing of my email, and I can understand that. I wasn't aware until Friday afternoon that you were going to bring this up again for this meeting, and I've been working on that email to be as concise and succinct as I could be, and that's why you got it over the weekend. I have brought up not using Oakmore Drive as the primary access to the residential area of the Big Woods North proposed language and the use of a feeder road system to enhance the proposed language. This has been done at past Planning Commission meetings as well as the Planning Commission public hearing, and I've also brought this up at council meetings as well as the public hearings related to this. To me, the feeder system provides the following. It's a good start to provide conversations with landowners and city staff to create the master plan discussed in the September 15 memorandum of the Planning Commission. It would provide the capability to provide access to all homeowners, or all landowners who have access to Victory Boulevard as well as Yorktown Road. If the city purchases any green space, parks, walking paths, whatever, the feeder road system would allow Poquoson citizens to access these purchases without due strain on any residential development area. The feeder system would also provide a secondary road access in case there are issues with Yorktown Road or Victory Boulevard. And if either road develops an issue that prevents the use of that road, traffic could be rerouted through the feeder system to either Yorktown Road or to Victory Boulevard, depending on where the problem occurred. As a request to not make Oakmore Drive an access to the traffic in Newtown Road is based on the following. The land behind Oakmore Drive is roughly 14 to 16 inches below the road. The land holds water from early fall until late spring. If we have a large amount of rain during the winter months or early spring months, the water remains until the middle of summer. The area behind Oakmore Drive has the largest percentage of non-tidal wetlands. These are still denoted by the red bands that are still in place. There have been attempts to develop the acreage that Abbott controls. He owns the land around Oakmore Drive and Abbott Lane. These attempts have never materialized due to the non-tidal wetlands and the drainage issues that could not be agreed to by the previous city staffs and developers. If this were not the fact, that area would already be established and it would have been built. What has confused me, and I apologize for this, when I was on council, we allowed people to ask questions, or we gave them a chance to respond if there was a question. Today, I found, and I started reading, usually the way you want to handle it is have any questions or requests in written form and provided to the clerk so issues would be addressed by council or city staff. Not putting my recommendations in writing and providing them to be addressed by council or city staff is my error. I would request that council delay voting on the resolution pertaining to updating the language in the comprehensive plan to your next council meeting. This will give city staff time to officially respond to my recommendations that I provided tonight. I assume the city staff answers these questions and council as well as myself will be provided with the answers. If city staff feels any merit in my recommendations, I would ask that they enhance the proposed language. As specified in your meeting, if there is no rush on the comprehensive plan, I understand you want to do it the right way. If you decide to vote on it tonight, the only request that I have is you change Oakmore Road to Oakmore Drive, which is the true name of the street. Thank you for your time, and I apologize. I know I can't ask you if you have any questions.
Mr. Quinn, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming back to speak with us. And the next speaker we have is Mr. Robert Carter. Carter lives at 11 Oakmore Drive. So, Mr. Carter?
Yes.
Welcome. Appreciate
Thank
you being with us.
Thank you. Appreciate your time tonight. I just have two really brief points. The first is, as Harold Quinn did his presentation, asked that you really give that time and consideration. He spent a lot of time working through some alternatives and walking the land, and I think it's well worth your time to consider. And also that you would delay a vote on anything until his list, which he's proposed a list of questions in writing, if they can be answered completely, so that we're all on the same page with those questions and answers. The other point I had was regarding, tonight you're going to be talking about Article 8.1 of the zoning ordinance, and I don't know who's going to be doing the presentation, but I would ask that when you talk about the planned open space conservation district, this overlay, that someone could perhaps let us know if the city's intent is to take that overlay and put that on the North Woods development, if that's the intent of making these changes now to plan for that North Woods development. So if that could be responded to in the presentation, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Appreciate you being with us for your comments. Do we have any other speakers? Okay, well, again, thank you all for being here. Those that did speak, much appreciated. And we will close the audience for visitors, and we will move on to item E, which is approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the regular session from January 26th of 2026?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on that? Christie, call for a vote, please.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman? Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting? Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Mayor Hux. Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie. Moving on to item F, public hearings. We have 2 tonight. So we have with us Mr. Wiley Horton. He is our Director of Community Development. And at this time, we will open the public hearing related to a resolution recommending approval to City Council of a conditional rezoning request of tax map parcel 27-01-00-0032, a .510 acre parcel to rezone the property from R1 residential to B2 business for professional office, landscaping, and a storage yard. So, Wally, appreciate you being with us. Please carry on with the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, staff, those from the public, either here or at home. This is a request from Taylor Stewart. Just want to point out one thing. You will have an approval resolution available. The city council is being asked to approve this tonight. It's not a recommendation. We recommend for it, but, it's obviously up to the council. This is Taylor Stewart conditional rezoning. The request, as I think the mayor very well said, was it is a conditional rezone from R1 residential to B2 commercial. Tax map number 27-01-00-0032. It's a .510 acre piece of property located on the southeast corner of Ashland Lane and West Creek Boulevard. And it is addressed as 306A West Creek Road. The application was advertised for public hearing on January 28th and February 4th, 2026. Adjoining property owners were notified on the 28th of January 2026. The site can support the addition of uses as proffered by the applicant, which include, as noted before, professional office space, landscape contracting, and a storage yard. The applicant has provided a concept layout of the property prepared by Anthony D. Potts. Before we get to that, I want to cover some pictures. These are basically taken clockwise from looking north on West Creek Boulevard. And they go basically from top to bottom, left to right. This first picture here is looking north on West Creek Boulevard. The second one is looking along Ashland Lane. The third is the back of the property, which shows the storage unit in the back, or the accessory warehouse unit. The next picture shows the adjoining property. You will notice that there's an opening there. The applicant is going to put in a 6-foot tall fence. It's going to essentially wall that off. Moving on, you can see the adjoining property. You can look across the street. You can see McPherson's Auto Garage. They do great work. They've worked on my car before. And this last big photo is a picture of the building in question. Inside, there's going to be professional office space. Like I said, there'll probably be an office for the landscape contractor. Storage yard will be out back. Here's the plat, and it's very hard to see. Maybe it's a little bit easier to see on screen. I hope so. At the front, you can see the building. You see a vacant area in the middle. That is going to be the yard area. And in the back, you see the garage. And like I say, that's all going to be surrounded with a 6-foot fence. The applicant will be doing a site plan that'll show all this in detail, as well as parking for people in the office spaces. If approved by the City Council, the new zoning of B2 business would permit the operation of the professional office space, landscape contracting, and storage yard. The applicant has obtained approval from the Architectural Review Board for the proposal, and there should be an attached memo in the packet. The comprehensive plan doesn't specifically mention the subject parcel. However, it is designated as R1 residential right now. The city council will entertain a motion after this is acted on to look at redesignating that to general commercial. The general commercial district is about 870 feet to the north. And of course, the reason for that is, as we've talked about several times before, I think, is keeping the comprehensive plan and the zoning ordinance in alignment. Getting back to zoning, the parcel is bordered by R1, if I can say that, zoning on all sides. This includes McPherson's Garage. I'm not picking on McPherson's, I'm just pointing out there's another business in the area. The site is accessed directly from Wythe Creek Road. It's accessed from there now, and it will continue to be accessed from there. Staff has not received any concern from the public or adjacent property owners regarding this application. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this proposal to the City Council by a vote of 6-0, with a modified condition number 6, that the maximum height be up to 14 feet to be determined at the highest point. The applicant understands that he is to remain in conformance with the ordinance, and a lot of these conditions you may recognize are from 10-13 in our B2 zoning for storage requirements. And the applicant just wants to make clear that he's going to abide by those. Okay, should the City Council approve this request, staff recommends that it include the following 9 conditions as proffered by the applicant owner, Taylor Stewart. And if you'll forgive me, I am going to read through these. The user's request is solely for landscape contracting and associated storage, as well as professional offices. The storage yard will be screened in accordance with city code and as approved by the Architectural Review Board. No outdoor activity will be permitted from the hours of 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., with the exception of a significant weather event or a government-declared emergency. Now, an example of that would be if we had a big snow. The applicant does a certain amount of snow plowing, and he may need access to his equipment outside those hours. Parking areas, if required, shall be surfaced in accordance with the city's site plan ordinance. Trees on the wooded portions of the lot will remain unless dangerous or diseased. Material kept on site will be shielded from public view in its entirety. This means any piles of any debris like mulch or gravel, that will be completely screened. What will not be completely screened is the equipment and vehicles, which would be screened from public view up to 55%, again determined by the height at the highest point, with a height no greater than 14 feet, regardless of how high the fence is. Vehicles and equipment kept in the storage yard must be kept in good repair and working condition. This is not a junkyard. Abandoned and/or unlicensed vehicles or equipment will not be permitted. No portion of the storage yard shall be located in the required front yard setback and shall meet all front yard setback requirements. Parking on the site shall be adequate for all uses as required by the site plan ordinance and all applicable sections of the city code. And with that, I'll be glad to take your questions.
Just a couple comments, Wally. The Pearson's Garage across the street is another business in the middle of the residential area.
Yes, sir.
And that business has been there longer than 90% of the houses that are there.
That's true.
Okay? And the other thing is, if I am correct, this site that we're talking about tonight to approve the measure on has been used as a business for many years.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up, since
It was a heating and air
1985.
conditioning business. Before that, I think it was an insurance office. So we're not creating a new business area in the middle of the residential. We're just citing that, hey, it's been in business for many years, and we're going to tell it what it is.
Zone it accordingly.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
And Wally, that was actually going to be my question too. I thought historically this had always been a business, and if it was in R1, has it historically been conditional use permit?
There is no prior conditional use permit.
Not now, but,
No.
no, not historically? Okay.
Not historically, and I actually looked at the McPherson's across the street, and likewise, it has not either.
And this request is for rezoning?
Yes.
Yes,
It's
and
for
there's-
rezoning, and the reason for that is that the council will remember that last year in July, we did an amendment to the conditional uses, and we came up with a distinction of major conditional uses and minor, and major includes review by the Architectural Review Board and is not allowed in residential areas. So.
And that's why I asked the question. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Well, I got one, or a couple. What's the impact of the road widening and the addition of sidewalks have on this plan?
To my knowledge, very little to do with the plan. The applicant may have some other information, but of course, the Wythe Creek Road widening has been sort of tailored down as we've gone along.
Right. But I know that.
But I mean,
Especially
if
with the
you
sidewalks.
put a sidewalk in front of it, I still think you would be okay.
I'll say we got to enjoy about, 22 months of them getting the utilities put down that side of the road. I was just wondering what impact that would have on that. Along with that is professional office space. Assuming there's going to be people that make use of that space, is there adequate parking going to be available? I know
Well,
that's something
we will do
later,
that
but-
through the site plan process.
Right.
We will get a list of the professional offices that are going to be in there and how many people will be on site at any given time, and we'll handle that through the site plan process.
And I know it comes later, maybe next, when we're talking about changing things. Because right now, there's businesses up by Hunt's Dental, and there's a void all the way down till you get to formerly Harper's Dental Care down there. Everything in between is R1,
Right.
and this will kind of put a little spot in the middle,
Well, it will. It will.
B2, and of course, the hope is to do the same thing for the McPherson's, also from R1 to B2, I think you mentioned.
Well, I think when we look at the comp plan, we'll take a look at that.
Right.
For sure. But this is the request before us, and we're basically, as has been pointed out before, it's been commercial since 1985, so we're really not doing anything to change the actual use.
I understand.
Going
Yeah.
on.
I remember there used to be an accountant in there, and I made use of his services for a while. way
Right,
back.
right.
Okay, that's all.
Any other questions from council members for Wally?
I have one. Going back to the condition number 6 about the equipment and vehicles shall be screened from public view up to 55%.
Yes.
That up to, is that at the applicant's discretion?
That is an ordinance provision. That is in section 10.2 under 13.
So can you help clarify what that would mean, the up to 55%, and with the height restriction of the 14 feet?
Well, let's take 14 feet as an example. 14 times 55 comes out to about, and I know because I did the math on this today, comes out to about 7.7 feet, which, if you put that in inches, is about 7 feet, 8.5 inches tall. So the fence would be, that's in excess of that's the overall height, that's how high it would be over the fence. So if you had a 7-foot fence, you would go up to 14.7. I didn't say that right.
Yes, you did, Wally. So the idea, you got a 6-foot fence, It would be slightly less than 14 feet.
Yes.
You have the capacity to build up to an 8-foot fence. But
Yes.
what the Planning Commission's recommendation was is no matter how high the fence is, the top of the equipment would be no more than 14.
Right.
And the applicant proffered that. So we're all in alignment on that. So it won't get much bigger as the fence gets bigger. In fact, maximum will not exceed 14 regardless of the size.
Yeah.
But if the fence is lower, if it was 6 feet, it doesn't automatically go to 14. It will go to some calculation, which is 13 and some change. I wasn't quite following all the numbers, but I got the point you made, Wally.
Yeah, I did explain that right, Ms. Emmett, and Mr. Weaver sort of got me on the right path again. But if you had a 7-foot tall fence, that would allow up to 14 feet because that's only 50% over.
You couldn't have a 10-foot tall fence and say, hey, I can get up to.
Well, you couldn't have that by the ordinance anyway. Right.
But you couldn't say
Yes.
22-foot piece of equipment, it's limited.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Correct.
Any other questions for Wiley? Well, I do have one for you, that 14-foot maximum height, that is to be measured from the existing ground level.
Yes, from the highest point of the ground level that he's at, yes.
Of course, the reason I asked that, that's the lessons learned from a past project. We had to tighten up our ordinance a little bit to specify existing ground level.
Yes, yes.
I'd also like to thank staff and planning commission for the good work they've done for us. I think the conditions that are identified herein are fair and reasonable to all involved. And we try to look out for the best interest of the greater good of all. And I think with these recommendations, we're doing that. Thanks again to staff and the planning commission.
Sure.
And at this time, I'll open the floor for speakers related to this topic. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the floor. Keith?
I watched the planning commission meeting that they had this, and I heard that the applicant made a comment to the effect that it was the only piece of property in the city that could do. And I kind of take exception to that because there are a lot of parcels in the city that are available. It almost sounds like Poquoson's so closed up that nothing can be put in here, unless you find the exact one. I fully admit that it may meet the exact needs for the cost and the land and the buildings and stuff like that. But just the thought that it's the only one available, and I heard that before with a certain gun range that's going up. That was the only piece of property available, and that's just not true. Because it may be the one that perfectly fits their needs, and I fully accept that. I think that there are no other properties in Poquoson that not really true.
Thank you, Keith.
Yep.
Appreciate your input there. All right, with that, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, I approve a resolution approving the comprehensive plan amendment request of tax map.
Nope.
Say it again.
Zoning, new business one. Public.
It is the one right before it. Do you have it here?
No, this is the one.
This is correct. Okay, back to my motion finally. I propose a resolution approving City Council of a conditional rezoning request of tax map parcel 27-01-00-0032, a .510 acre parcel to rezone the property from B1 residential to B2 business or professional office landscaping and storage yard.
Second.
Thank you.
Should it be one? Do we need to clarify that? Should be R1, correct?
That should be R1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, from R1 to B2 is the motion.
Ray, are we in order on how that was handled?
I think he amended it, so from to B1, but I think he amended it successfully to R1.
Okay. All right, thank you for your guidance there. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from council members? Christie?
Councilman Freeman. Aye. Councilwoman Emmett.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilman Fye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting.
Aye.
Mayor Hucks.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie. All right, well, with that, we will close the public hearing for the first topic, and we will open the public hearing for topic number 2, which is a resolution approving a comprehensive plan amendment request, tax map parcel 27-01-00-0032, a .510 acre parcel to redesignate the property from low-density residential to general commercial on the future land use map. Wally back with us, so take it away, Wally.
Thank you, thank you. This is the second half of the conditional rezoning. This is the comprehensive plan amendment. It is for the same property, 2701-000032. Again, it's a .510 acre piece of property located at the southeast corner of Ashland Lane and With Creek Boulevard at 306A With Creek Boulevard. Public notice, like the conditional rezoning, public notice was sent out on January 28th and February 4th, 2028. 2026, I'm accelerating my years here, and requests by letters were mailed on January 28th, 2006. A lot of this has been basically restated when I said that the board would be acting on this after the conditional rezoning. We know that it's low-density residential right now, looking for a redesignation to general commercial. The nearest general commercial is about 870 feet to the north, but there's several business properties in the area. The site is accessed from With Creek Road, and I think the clicker is still over there, but basically that black dot where the property is with the arrow going there, that is the site. It is perhaps that black dot is a little bit bigger than the property is, but I originally had it green, but I changed it because I didn't want there to be any confusion with the B1 district. But it is black, and you can see the purple up there on With Creek Road a little bit further north. That is the general commercial, so it'll essentially go to purple on the future land use map. Well, this you already know. He submitted a request for a conditional zoning to B2. The comprehensive plan doesn't specifically mention the parcel, however, it is low-density residential. We are asking for it to be general commercial, as I've just explained on the map. And if there are any other questions, I'll be more than happy to take them. Staff has not received any concern from the public. Likewise with this one, as with the conditional rezoning, should City Council approve the request, the 9 conditions that are proffered by the applicant for conditional rezoning will be in operation even though it's not on your comprehensive plan approval resolution. I'll be happy to take any questions you have.
Any questions of Wally from council members? Wally, thank you for that.
Sure.
And we'll open the floor at this time for speakers related to this topic. All right, seeing none, I will close the floor and ask for a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution approving a comprehensive plan amendment request of tax map parcel 27-01-00-0032, a .510 acre parcel to redesignate property from low-density residential to general commercial on the future land use map.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Christie?
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Mayor Hooks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thank you, Christie. So that brings to a close a public hearing. Mr. and Ms. Stewart are here with us tonight, so congratulations on the success of your business and best wishes moving forward. So we'll move on now to item G, new business. We have 3 topics. The first relates to a resolution to task the Planning Commission with updating language in the comprehensive plan and reviewing changes to Article 8.1 of the zoning ordinance, which is Appendix A, zoning of the City of Poquoson Code of Ordinances. Andy, could you share some insight on that topic, please,
Sure.
with what we are tasked with tonight?
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is your first new business, number 1. So I was trying to catch Wally's attention to ask him a question.
Yes, sir.
So as it was, some of the speakers related, actually, the journey that we're still on as of this evening is the continuation of the strategic initiatives that you all approved last year in early in January and February of last year. And one of those was to take a look at the north side of Victory Boulevard, to be followed eventually by the central business districts. That kind of relates to what Wally has been speaking about. And pursuant to that, there was a joint session with the Planning Commission and Council, members of the EDA in June, the Public Safety Building. Several landowners were there as well. And the Planning Commission from there was asked by Council to begin to mature the kinds of things that were spoken of there at the retreat, and to come back and do kind of a mid-process check on the comprehensive plan aspect. And they presented that mid-process check to you in December. The recommendations that are there reflected in your ordinance from the Planning Commission are recommendations from the Planning Commission. I know they've had several meetings. They had some audience for visitors where people spoke of it. And at which time they were asking for your reaction. Important to note that whether you table it or amend it or approve it tonight, the next steps is to go back to the Planning Commission to thresh out the full language, which will then be subject to public hearings and can be subject to change. And the Planning Commission then will make formal recommendations to you all. It'll come here, we'll have another public hearing, following which you can act on it, not act on it, make modifications to it as you see fit. So the important point there is this is not the last step, this is just the next step, and there are at least 2 formal steps beyond this action, and those represent Planning Commission public hearings and City Council public hearings. So whether you table them tonight or not, that process will happen at some point in the future. But through this action, this is only saying to the Planning Commission, if you were to accept it, that at least as an initial reaction, go forth and continue to develop this. It doesn't mean that that is what they will finally recommend. It also doesn't mean that is what you would finally approve. The balance, what I was trying to get Mr. Horton's attention on, the balance is the mayor's recommendation for modifications to the planned open space conservation district. And my question for you, Wally, and I just want to make sure I'm right, it's right here. The planned open space conservation district overlays all of our single-family residential zoning districts.
Yes, it does.
And then, I don't know when it was put in place, but it has been there for my entire 17 years. So this is not new. What is new is the proposed modifications from the mayor. Do you want me to speak to those, or would you prefer to speak to them? sir?
Go right, you're on roll, so.
I would not, but I'll do my best, and now I'll lose my place or something. So the 4 modifications to the existing ordinance, and council will recall that you made some further initial modifications to this ordinance about 6 or 7 months ago.
In February.
But the ones in front of you today, the mayor is asking to remand to the planning commission. So if you were to do that, that would go to the planning commission, they would study it, they would have a public hearing, they would make a recommendation, and it would come back to you for a public hearing as well. So again, not the last step, just the next step. And it's 4 items. It's changing the minimum boundary buffers from 40 feet to 50 feet if it's buffering existing residential, so it's increasing the buffer. Increasing the allotment for open space as a percentage of the overall development. Currently, it's at 50%. This would take it to 55%, so that would increase open space. Additionally, our ordinance provides for a certain amount of credit for development unit potential based on the percentage of non-tidal wetlands. At present, it is at 50%. This would lower it as proposed to 25%. Therefore, the maximum amount of yield in properties that would have non-tidal wetlands would be lessened. And lastly, the current ordinance allows developments under 10 units in size to be developed on a private street. And what the mayor's recommendation, council members, to you to consider is to lower that threshold between a private street from 10 to 6, so that all larger developments would be on a public street rather than. I think I got it all. Did I miss anything, sir?
You did a wonderful job. Thank you very much, Randy. Appreciate that. And just to elaborate a little bit, Randy's comments, the motivation to those additional amendments for the open space development, in my humble opinion, I think that ordinance produces a very positive end result, and these suggestions are intended to take something that's good, tweak it a little bit, and make it a little bit better. It just puts a little bit more emphasis on preservation and conservation, and that's consistent with what we identified in our mission vision statement last year, and it's also consistent with the existing language in the preserving and conserving space, try to save a few more trees, but still not being unreasonably constraining on developers either. So we're trying to strike a happy medium between those two things. And like Randy spoke to just a minute ago, is yes, this does apply to Big Woods North as well as throughout the entire community. So that's a pretty easy one to address. And if I could elaborate a little bit as well on the comp plan. Since Friday afternoon, I've had the occasion to study up a little bit on all 218 pages of it. And I did go through it page by page, although not necessarily every word in every sentence. And I'm by no means a subject matter expert. But I can share a little bit of insight. The comp plan is a strategic planning document. And like the name suggests, it provides guidelines, guidance for the future based on the best information we have today, based on the perspectives and the feelings that we have today. And it takes into account the ability of humans when it comes to foresight, and the ability to predict the future with 100% accuracy is far from perfect. So therefore, the comp plan does not require rigid, strict adherence. It is guidance. It's a guidance document. And it can be amended moving forward at any time, just like we're working on right now. And also, as Randy alluded to, this is a process that we're about 13 months into, and it is a work in progress, and we'll continue to tweak it. We're not about rushing. We appreciate the input from everybody. So, council members, did y'all want to share some thoughts on that as well?
I do.
Yeah,
I do.
Mr. Southall?
Yes. It's my understanding that this just allows the planning commission to continue with their process. And that this group of people here who have their concerns, want to bring up the questions and so forth, still have future opportunity in the planning commission before any final document is drawn. Is that not correct? Okay. And so this is not a final thing. It just allows the planning commission to continue with their work. Okay? You will have ample opportunity to work with the planning commission to answer all of your questions as they go about that. And I spoke with Mr. Randy Neal today, very pleasant gentleman. Thank you, everyone, for paying attention to your city government. I wish more people would do that. He seemed to believe, and if my impression was correct, that mentioning Oakmore Drive made it a target for any road that might go through there. And if it wasn't, that language wasn't there, then it wouldn't necessarily be a target. I don't share his concern because I don't think it makes it a target, because I think in the future, if anyone ever developed that property, they wouldn't look at the names of the roads in this document. They would look at the current city maps and see where access points might be and might not be, and what was usable and what would be usable based on whether or not it was wetlands or really lowlands or so forth. So they wouldn't specify any route by the words used in this document. And I wouldn't care if those words were struck from it. That's my feeling.
Thank you, Mr. Southall. Mr. Freeman?
Yeah, I agree with what Councilman Southall said, but I'd like to propose somehow or another we take Yorktown Road and Oakmore Road out of the document. And I don't know exactly how to tell the planning commission we propose that.
Yes, sir, please do.
The most simplest way, when you're ready to do that, whether it's tonight or after having tabled it, would be a motion to approve the resolution as presented with a modification of the Planning Commission's recommendation number 3, line 3, strike the parentheses section beginning parentheses such as Yorktown Road and Oakmore Road, close parentheses, and just make a motion to approve with that modification.
Yeah, just strike that out. That's fine. I'm good with that.
I have a question as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and when I was making eyes over here, I was like, what, you're using the word development, Randy, when you were talking about, and obviously we know you don't mean development as in to develop the land, it was to develop the plan. But what I was thinking about in that time frame was sending it back to the Planning Commission so that they can continue looking at it and continue down their path of understanding and fleshing out and so on. But the questions that have been asked by the public via email and so on that they'd like answers to, would it be possible for staff to look at those and determine if they're Planning Commission questions or if they're reasonable staff questions, and just liaise to get those to the right people so that when the Planning Commission does meet, that the residents who are, adjacent to the woods have answers to those questions so that they can participate in.
Can I answer that?
Yes, sir, go right ahead.
We certainly can take those questions and work that through the staffing process with the Planning Commission and make sure that whomever it is that is best to answer that is all answered as part of that process prior to the public hearing being presented, so we would have the opportunity to see the answers to those questions.
That
Yes,
would
ma'am.
be great, thank you. And just for the record, I agree with Carrie's suggestion. Because I understand what, not that I've ever been there, but I understand the concept of feeling like a target when you see your name, right? And that's their name.
Thank you, Jeannie. Keith?
Yes, getting back to your level of talk, like when something comes out as a change to the comprehensive plan again. I did the same thing with this particular ordinance and came up with the fact that there's some differences in the ordinances that are published online than the one that we were taking here and then modifying. And once again, which I already knew, but I confirmed it, that because these are published online for us on an annual basis, and we made changes last summer, those changes are in there summer, which are actually about 3 or 4 in here, different paragraph movements, things like that, cannot be found online. So if anybody, I know everybody, when you see one of these, everybody outside is looking up one of the ordinances and making checks and stuff like that. So if you do, you see some differences, it's a good thing to question that because those things may have already been changed, which a lot of these were from this past year, so.
Appreciate your due diligence, Keith.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Council members, any other input on this topic? I can assure all involved, the questions will be answered, and there will be a follow-up. You can certainly count on that. As Randy had described, our professional staff will be involved who have much better insight than we as council members do, not being professionals like they are. I did receive an email this afternoon that I wanted to address from a resident of Oakmore, and the concern that tonight council was going to take a vote to designate Oakmore Drive as the entry point to a planned development. Well, I think we've already made it clear that's not what the vote was about tonight. But I also want to express that at this point today, there's not any plans to develop that I'm aware of. I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, but I can tell you that as of today, there are no plans, and we're not aware of any plans coming down the pike. So that's a pretty easy one to put to rest. And also, I can tell you with 100% certainty, there are no plans to construct a new city hall in the Big Woods North or anywhere else. The one we're sitting in right now seems to be serving us pretty well, and we're thankful for that, and hope to get a lot more good use out of it. So thank you for entertaining me on those subjects. Council, before we take a motion, a second, and a vote on this, I'm feeling that there's a consensus among council to strike the specific references to Yorktown and Oakmore. I did have a little bit of time late this afternoon to talk with Randy and some of the council members on this. It doesn't seem like that hurts a thing to do that. I personally support it. So there's just no downside to doing that. If people would feel more comfortable, then I think we can do that. I think we'll solidify that in just a minute. But with regard to postponing the vote, as Randy has described, if we vote on this tonight, it's going to go back to the planning commission, and there will be lots of other opportunities through that process before it even gets back to us to take a vote on it. So is there any benefit to postponing? I mean,
I have no bet to postpone it. It's clear that any questions they may have that we haven't answered about doing what we're doing, they will have ample opportunity to work with the planning commission before anything is finalized and we vote on the final program. Having specific roads as targets is going to be settled, I believe, in just a few minutes. I think we should go ahead and do the vote tonight as part of it and let the planning commission do their work.
And I agree, because if we are already taking the concerns that Mr. Quinn brought forward and committing to getting those answers
Yes.
for the residents, that, this is not a fast process. And I think that, thank you very much for that commitment to get it to the right person, right people to answer those questions, to make sure that they have a chance to read those and understand them and able to come back again, if you need to the Planning Commission, who is the proper level at this point.
Yes, and just to emphasize, the questions will be part of the process. The Planning Commission will have it, we'll have it, staff will have it. And what we've heard tonight, the emails that we've received, the phone conversation we've had, that's all going to be taken into consideration. We're not trying to rush this through. But, I'll ask one more time, but is there any other input from council members on this? So
I see no reason to postpone.
well, I mean, I
And then, even when the planning commission makes their recommendation and it comes back to city council, that will be another opportunity
yes.
to
So,
voice your concerns at that time as well.
I mean, we're certainly trying to demonstrate that we listen and we care and we're concerned and taking everybody's perspective into account. And I can assure you, I got home Friday evening at 7 o'clock and got Mr. Quinn's email, and I've really done nothing else, little else, since 7 o'clock Friday night in preparation for this. But again, I think we're demonstrating that we're listening, we're responsive, but we're trying to keep the process moving forward at a measured pace without getting ahead of ourselves. And I think we have lots of checks and balances in place for future input, careful consideration. So with that, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
I'll try making a motion again. I propose a resolution to task the Planning Commission with updating language in the comprehensive plan and reviewing changes to Article 8-1 of the zoning ordinance, Appendix A, zoning of the City of Poquoson Code of Ordinances, and revise paragraph 3 of the proposed language, sentence 3, eliminating the words Yorktown Road and Oakmore Drive.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Christie, call for vote, please.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Mayor Hucks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7 to 0.
Okay, very good. And please think about all the words that we've shared tonight, and the questions will be answered, they will be incorporated, and we'll continue to work through this process, I should say. Our next meeting will be in 2 weeks, so I would encourage everybody, please stay in touch. Please come back, talk to us. It's been a pleasure having everybody here tonight. We appreciate everybody's input. So, yes, sir, please do.
Wally, correct me if I'm wrong, but just for the benefit of the folks that are here and want to continue with this issue, the most likely time the Planning Commission would even begin this next round of discussion would be at their March meeting. And I would say that since they've got to talk about it, we won't be in a position to advertise it that evening. So I would imagine the public hearing April, and so it shouldn't make its way back City Council for a public hearing any earlier than May, and it may be a couple more months after that if the Planning Commission wants to sort of chew on it for a while. So, but I would be on the lookout for the March Planning Commission meeting as the continuation of the discussion.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Wally. And again, thank you all for being with us. So we'll move on to topic number 2 under new business, which is a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase a dump truck from Norfolk Truck and a street sweeper from Infrastructure Solutions Group. We have with us tonight our Assistant City Manager, Ms. Tanya O'Connell. Thank you, Tanya.
I think the mic's either not on. That one's still working?
They said they can hear me in there, so at least the audience at home who are listening.
I can hear you now.
Perfect. All right. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, city manager, thank you. Tonight we have a resolution authorizing the city manager, as you're aware, his authorizations up to $100,000. So anything over $100,000, I need city council's approval to do so. We have an opportunity back in December, you appropriated funds for a dump truck versus doing debt Now that sounds better.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll just start over for the benefits of the public. Tonight is a resolution authorizing the city manager, who has the authority up to $100,000 to approve equipment and contracts. So tonight we have two things for you: a dump truck, which you provided the appropriation in December of $116,493. Bodina Wright has done the work with Public Works to bid the dump truck out with 3 different vendors. The vendor that we have decided to go with has a 2024 model that's going to give us an extended warranty. And initially, I thought it was going to give us about a $7,000 savings between 2024 to 2026. It's actually $12,000. I was comparing the wrong model, so my information is corrected. But tonight, we're asking for approval of that dump truck, as well as a street sweeper. We have a 2016 street sweeper that is on the fritz. It is a high model that they put all the bells and whistles on, and the model that they're requesting is not having the bells and whistles because they found out a lot of things breaks, and it's hard to get them fixed. So tonight, they're asking for $270,249 to go towards the purchase of that Freightliner. Again, we're going to use street monies for that. I do not need an appropriation because it already exists in the budget. I see Ms. Hubbard asking that question. Each year, you appropriate VDOT money, and Public Works has the ability to put asphalt in, to purchase equipment that keeps the street clean, and we're able to do so with this appropriation. So, again, Bodina's here for any questions you have of the 2 equipments, but here to answer any questions.
Freeman?
Can we sell the 2016 sweet sweeper to somebody?
Absolutely. We will put that up for auction as we do with all our equipment that we get rid of. In fact, we just had an auction. If you recall, you replaced the 2 fire chief's vehicles, and those just recently, as of last week, I signed those titles to be sold. We got about $6,000 each for those 2 vehicles.
Any other questions for Tanya? I would like to make a comment.
Certainly.
Well, thank you. I remember a few years ago, we were in a position where we needed to purchase numerous pieces of equipment to help support various projects. And I wanted to thank and compliment staff for staying on top of this, because since then, we have been able to regularly upgrade and update our equipment to avoid getting in the position that we're in just a few years ago with having a kind of a backlog of stuff that needed to be replaced. So thank you very much for that. And Bedina, she's our operations manager. She's here with us, so thank you, staff, for that.
Well, and we have to thank City Council because of the purchases, our fleet department has an easier job. They do not have to struggle to get the parts in needed to replace it with newer models.
All right. Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you.
Appreciate your help. We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, I move it's a resolution that authorizing the city manager to purchase a dump truck, Norfolk truck, and a street sweeper from Infrastructure Solutions Group.
Second.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Christie?
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Five?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hucks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thank you, Christie. Then moving on to topic number 3 under new business. This is a resolution to ratify the declaration of a state of emergency in the city of Poquoson on January 30th, 2026.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I spent my birthday weekend, January 30th and 31st, like many of you, waiting for a big storm which had the potential for tidal flooding and 20 degrees. Nobody recalls that happening before, and a little bit frightened of it, to be quite honest. In anticipation of that, I declared as your emergency services director, an emergency in anticipation of the weather event that the National Weather Service was predicting for us. We were fortunate that it didn't happen. That's the second one we've missed. But the question is sort of, why do we do this? The federal disaster, the state of emergency allows us to potentially qualify for federal disaster aid if we and/or our immediate area suffers substantial damage. That is more likely for us to be hurricane-related than it is winter storm-related, but can't go backwards. So we get in that queue. The governor declared an emergency both of those weekends as well. It allows us to access the Virginia Department of Emergency Management resources and assets that we otherwise would not have easy access to, and it expands our mutual aid reach if we need it, really through the state's network to the entire Commonwealth. So it's part of our getting ready. Glad we didn't have to do it, but the code does require, Code of Virginia, that the council consider within 45 days, really as soon as practical, but within 45 days, to meet together and concur with the declaration. So,
Good. Thank you, Randy. Council members, any questions for Randy? Comments? All right, do we have a motion and a second?
Mr. Mayor, I propose a resolution to ratify the declaration of state of emergency in the city of Poquoson on January the 30th, 2026.
Second?
Thank you. Christie?
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Bunting? Aye. Councilman Fye? Mayor Hucks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thank you, Christie. We'll move on to item H, comments of the city manager. Randy?
thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Only one item tonight, and this is really a public announcement. The city council will be meeting with the senior staff the evening of February 24th for a preliminary FY27 budget retreat. That is the night after your regularly scheduled meeting. The preliminary budget retreat will be in the Public Safety Building, right down the street in the community room, which is the middle room right as you walk in, where we had our retreat with the Planning Commission last June. That's all I have, sir.
And during those retreats, the public is welcome and encouraged to attend. So we'd love to have some folks there during that discussion. Thank you, Randy. Moving on to item I, council directives. Keith?
Thank you. Reminder for those that may need it or would like to help. Poquoson Mobile Food Pantry will be this Thursday at MES Baptist Church. The distribution begins at 10 and goes till noon, but we ask volunteers if they're going to be there by 8:30 so we can get a safety presentation and then talk about what we're going to do. This month's volunteer group is city staff members, and I appreciate their showing up and coming to that. Also, on a related but kind of sadder note, was the Parish Thrift Shop Food Pantry will be closing for good at the end of this month. And yes, just the food pantry, not the thrift shop itself, just the food pantry located therein. It's kind of sad that there was no one to pick it up. On the bright side a little bit is that because the Shine Ministry at MES Baptist Church has created their own pantry that will be available other than on their distribution days, will help fill a little bit of the void, but not what they have had in the past. So instead of a weekly thing, once a month thing, but a sad loss, the loss of the food pantry at the thrift shop.
Thank you, Keith. Debbie?
I just wanted to thank everyone that came out tonight to voice their opinion. Best wishes. It's always good to have businesses occupying space. And it was mentioned that that building was a business since the 80s. I remember that being a business back early, probably even 60s, 70s. It was a hair salon. And the reason I know that was because my sister worked in that building. It was a long time ago. I have no idea what it looked like, but I remember it may not have been that specific building. It may have looked like something else, but that was a long time ago, and that was brought to my notice. I think that's a good area, where a lot of cars go by, so it's a good place for businesses to be, thrive. So best wishes.
Thank you, Debbie.
You're welcome.
Mr. Freeman?
I missed the time for that budget work session.
It's 6 PM.
Say it again.
6 PM.
4 to 6.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
1600.
And only other thing I wanted to say,
6
we had
p.m.
talked about a drug take-back program earlier. We've been doing that in the city for a long time. Officer Curry or Sergeant Curry is now with the police force at the Poquoson drugstore, or what used to be some pharmacy. Very successful from what I understand. I just wanted to throw that out for people, and it's usually in October, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Jeannie?
I echo what you were saying, Debbie, again, thanking people for coming out and supporting City Council, bringing your questions. There are people on the city staff who know a lot of these answers, and while I enjoy absolutely getting the emails and having questions come to us, I'm the new one on council, so for me, that's kind of cool. I'm getting emails asking me questions from people who live in my precinct and sometimes outside. I turn around and ask those same questions to Tanya and Randy and Wally. Tanya's like, no kidding, Jeannie, 3 times a week at least. So remember that city staff is right there, and they can answer questions for you. And their contact information is also available on the web, on the city website. So, and they're wonderful. They answer my questions. They'll answer yours too. Yeah, all questions go to Wally Horton.
3040.
And that's all I have.
I really appreciate that last one.
Appreciate that. Angie?
Just echo, thank you, everyone who came out, who gave comments, everyone who's watching at home. I mention this often, but I know if you are interested in getting all of these agendas for the Planning Commission and for City Council right to your email inbox, you can do so on the city's website. There's a place to sign up, and I encourage you to do that and follow along, and thank you again for everybody for being here.
Thank you, Angie. Mr. Southall?
Yes, again, I would like to thank everybody at home and everyone who came out here tonight to pay attention to the city government. I think it's very important. I'll remind everyone at home and here, and tell your friends, that we always accept applications for the various boards and commissions sitting. I'll remind everyone this is the best city in the state, okay? Probably the best city in the United States, and I love working here. In spite of the fact that Essex Point was named after my great-grandfather. We go back a ways. I also encourage you not just to pay attention to your city government, and I think that's very important. Pay attention to your state government and federal government, especially. Many people don't even know that there's a couple of bills before the state that would take Virginia away from being a right-to-work state, okay? I think you need to pay attention to that, because my personal opinion is it would cost the state a whole bunch of money. Cost contractors who were not union contractors in the city a lot of money, because they wouldn't be able to bid on the many contracts. And so pay attention to your city government, but pay attention to your state government and contact your representatives. It's important. I think Virginia ought to, my personal opinion, not for the city, but my personal opinion is it's not good to do away with that right to work, and I don't think we do it. If you share that opinion, let your legislators know. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Southall. Just like to thank Alicia Barefoot and Allison Kroll for their IT support. Couldn't have the meetings without them, so thank you, ladies, for the job that y'all do for us. And with that, we'll move on to adjournment, and I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Christie?
Vice Mayor Bunting?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Freeman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Emmett?
Aye.
Mayor Hucks?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion is carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Christie. We're adjourned.
Are you sure, Mike?